This is the new iPhone 17 Pro Max, a device that represents some of the most advanced technology of our time. But what would happen if a phone like this appeared in the year 1800? What would people of that era do? Would they be afraid? Would they call it a miracle? Or would they try to understand it? The first question would be the simplest. How does it work? People in 1800 were used to complex objects having understandable mechanisms. A clock worked because of gears. A music box worked because of springs. A telescope worked because of lenses. But this was completely different. There was no key, no handle, no visible mechanism, only a black surface that reacted to touch. The most realistic scenario is that the object would quickly end up in the hands of people interested in science. And this is where things become interesting. The year 1800 was a time when scientists were actively exploring electricity, chemistry, physics, and new inventions. They were trying to understand how nature worked and searching for new ways to control energy. So the iPhone would probably not be seen as magic. It would most likely be treated as an extremely advanced scientific device, something created by an unknown technology far beyond their understanding. Imagine the phone inside a laboratory. A scientist would discover several things that would completely change their understanding of technology. The first thing would be the screen, a surface that can display images without paper, paint, or mechanical parts. The second thing would be the touch screen, a device that changes its behavior when touched by a human finger. And the third thing would be its size. Inside such a small object was more technology than could exist in an entire laboratory of that era. But there would be one huge problem. They would see the result, but they would not understand the process behind it. And here comes the real problem, the battery. Even if the phone reached the smartest people in Europe, its time would be limited. After a day or two, the battery would run out, and then something strange would happen. The most advanced object humanity had ever seen would become just a piece of glass and metal. People would probably try to open it. They would search for gears, wires, or hidden mechanisms, but instead, they would find tiny electronic components that could not be manufactured with the technology of 1800. Could one iPhone accelerate human progress? Most likely no, because technology is not only about having an idea, it requires materials, factories, tools, and thousands of smaller inventions. A scientist in 1800 could understand that such a device was possible. They could draw its shape. They could study its materials. They could become inspired by the idea of smaller and more powerful technology. But creating something similar would be impossible. The distance between 1800 and a modern smartphone is more than 200 years of scientific and industrial development. So the most realistic scenario is not a story about how the future changed the past. It would be a story about a mysterious object that appeared too early. People in 1800 were not stupid. They would study it. They would debate it. They would try to understand it. But in the end, the iPhone would not become a tool of the future. It would become the most advanced artifact humanity had ever seen. And after a few days, it would simply turn off, leaving behind only one question: who was able to create something like this?